We are. Hello, everyone. This is Darcenovia here, and I feel like it would be a shame if I didn't talk about this. I know the last time I discussed this, I was essentially putting people on blast for not discussing it who call themselves communists, but that's not what this stream is actually about. It's actually more about it's kind of a celebration for a small victory that the working class has gained and how the working class could fight the capitalists going forward. Yeah, I know unions aren't the most radical thing you can do under capitalism, but anything that takes away power from the capitalists is something that should be encouraged. Because
Yeah,
real ultra leftists are against any form of action that would help the working class.
yeah, and the conditions from what I've looked up at these union workers in these Amazon plants are fucking horrific. I can even imagine having to work underneath with guards watching you all the time and um, other such things. And um, I know I've read before about these there was like a vote in Alabama to unionize, and they were bullied into not doing that. Um, and it's um, it's really it's really pathetic to see just how low they will go to stop any attempt at unionizing at these Amazon warehouses.
It to the point where they'll get the fucking police involved. It's just like
Yeah,
if you're against people unionizing, and I'm just gonna say this to any so-called communists out there, you might as well just say you support the fucking police because because the police were hired by Amazon like hired thugs to stop these people from unionizing in New York. What the fuck is wrong with you? You call yourself communist, yet you literally support the same thing Jeff Bezos supports.
yeah. Well, it doesn't shock me. Like these are the same people that will attack um, every other group of working class people, but then they'll distort the term working class to apply to petite bourgeois people, um, and then they'll criticize. They'll they'll take out their frustration on, like, let's say, Uber Eats drivers when they're streaming and other such things, and it's really fucking pathetic. Like, these people are not for the working class. They are definitely the enemies of the working class, 100% to the go.
Well, I think it's appropriate talking about these patriotic socialists because you're supposed to be for the workers, theoretically. Yet, why aren't you actually promoting this? Where are you? I hate Jimmy Dore and I really do, and I'm just gonna say I fucking hate him. He's fucking talking about it.
Yeah, yeah, I despise Adore as well. Even though I used to be a fan of him until he went insane and um, went on to this pink brown nonsense. But you know, a broken clock is yada yada. The old saying. They're too busy talking about things like these. Well, I don't know if they still are talking about it, but they spent a significant portion of their time promoting um, and talking about the Freedom Convoy, quote unquote, in Canada, which was literally a white supremacist Nazi movement, overwhelmingly dominated by extremists, far right extremists. and was not working class. It was mostly petty bourgeois.
There were working class people at first in this movement, but it was hijacked.
Yeah, which is always what's going to happen, especially if their demands, its demands are not coherent. It's going to get eventually swooped up by some ideological group.
Okay,
Just
I have
happen to
to
be
answer
there.
this person's question. I don't block people for disagreeing with me. I block people that come to my channel and my streams to cause trouble. There's a difference. That's to answer your question. Now, I want to get back to what we were talking about. I actually think this small victory that we have is something that we should all be celebrating. We should all be talking about. We should all be spreading the word because it isn't often that we get these kind of victories. Not at all. And in these times, we know who really supports the workers and who doesn't support the workers.
Yeah, and we need more victories like this because if we don't have victories like this, um, we're when things keep getting worse and worse and worse, we're not going to have the organizations um, to protect us, basically.
And here's the
Because
thing. Sorry, I'll let you
it's
speak.
okay. Well, because we are headed towards fascism and a new world war. Like this isn't even in dispute at this point.
I would say
Mm,
open fascism. We already are in fascism.
yeah, but
And
I could see
sorry,
something like a full scale, basically like a Nazi party take over very
I don't think
relatively soon.
I really don't think Nazism is something that could work in America. Not in
At
this
least
day.
not in America. Yeah,
I think fascism in America, it's going to be. Uh,
Mosley, I
I was about to
mostly.
say that, but yeah,
Mosleism is the only form. Well, I mean, I guess you could say Mussolini as well, but like the Mussolini style, Mosley style fascism is the only one that can really survive from the 20th century because, especially with Mosley, they have a chance to dissonate from, um, the issues regarding World War II. I mean, fucking Mosley very famously on British TV in the 70s blamed both the Jews of England and the Germans for World War II. So take that as you will. But these
well,
people also promote a very dialectical idea around foreign policy and the organization of empire that Chinese foreign policy is actually very similar to.
Yeah, and we're
well, I
seeing
actually think the reason why
we're se-
Mussoliniite fascism is the what we're actually going to get is you're not going to be able to get that many people to support your movement. I'm referring to because America is increasingly becoming less white, and in order to get more people to support fascism, you can't do Naziite fascism. You just can't do it. It only applies to a minority of the population.
Yeah, white supremacy is quite hard to push. It's still possible. It's still possible, but I would argue that they're gonna just try and advance on. So multiculturalism in the era of Roosevelt was very much centered around white people trying to not do this whole Anglo-Saxon style hierarchy they did with America in the first place. They didn't even manage to get rid of it properly. It was a really shit attempt at dealing with the issue. But sort of nonetheless, they're and I mean we see this with the Maupinites crowd. They're gonna try and ride off multiculturalism and make it about everyone and everything. It's all it's gonna do is promote assimilation. I was talking about this with a Pentecostal pastor today that I was speaking with. I turned around and I said that the funny thing is with whiteness and how it embodies itself and how it sort of develops from all sorts of different places, very similar to Anglo-Saxonism, sometimes without even having been imprinted by it. And it's that whiteness is so genocidal, it's so assimilative that it won't leave culture once it's got everyone else's. It'll get its own soon. um so much of America is being totally imbued purely into its settler colonial culture that they're actually not just avoiding everyone else from their culture, but they're dividing themselves from their own culture, and they're stealing little bits and pieces that they don't even understand from other people's culture and mixing it up into their settler culture and turning what weren't oppressive things into oppressive things, what were beautiful things into ugly things.
Yeah.
I agree. And this whole thing with the Amazon Union, because I want to kind of keep this string about that primarily, is we are seeing the true colors of many of these like so-called communists, because this is a perfect opportunity to prove everyone wrong. Like the Maoist third world is wrong, that you support the working class. This is a great opportunity to do that. Yet they don't even support things, even though unions, within itself is not enough to dismantle capitalism. It at least gives the working class a fighting chance against these bosses.
Well, look at it. They were turning around and like, oh yeah, but you guys didn't stand against Juan Guaido and supported him. It's like, so what? That's an innocent mistake if they were liberals at the time. They've
And
obviously only just become class conscious. If they went from being unorganized people who didn't really care that much about politics to organizing a union, that's a big step forward. You don't then go, well, but you didn't like this guy I really like from abroad. No, you turn around and go, okay, then let's talk about more stuff. Let's talk about the problems that are going forward. You engage with them. If you turn around and belittle them, they're never going to side with you. They're going to tell you to fuck off. And that's the
yeah,
only response they've got. They've either been ignored by people who are more bothered about trying to fucking grab the attention of people like me who couldn't give a flying fuck about their existence. Or you get people whom will blatantly go out of their way and bash these people as some form of like bastional support of imperialism when, mind you, yes, a lot of people in the working class are benefactors of imperialism, but not as much as people in the fucking middle class. What is the majority of the Trump supportive base? Middle class people. So let's get into this. What Maupin's crowd lot are doing is they're licking the ass of people who benefit more of imperialism and then spitting in the face of people whom have so much stress in their lives that they don't think about imperialism as much as aristocrats do. They don't think about the world like that. They're more bothered about putting food on the table. Even those who are a little bourgeoisificated, they're still more bothered about sticking food on the table, not fucking, how much Russia's dick is inside of Russia, inside of Ukraine right now. So it's sort
yeah.
of like they ain't gonna get it right, and to get it right with them, you got to speak with them, not belittle them. It's disgusting. It makes me ill. Sorry for talking so much, but it just
Not to,
really
not to
drives me up the
mention,
wall. I want to ram my head through a screen every time I hear them fuckers belittle proletarians.
these people, like, guess what? This guy who helped made this union, none of these people wore suits. None of them.
And also, like, where are they getting, like, okay, where are they getting the idea that these people were just so fervently for Juan Guaido? Like, it's just
Did
like
they really say that?
oh,
Yes, yes, he did.
yes,
Not
yeah,
Caleb. It was some. It was one of his. I think it was Default. I don't know. It had the same icon I've seen Default use, but not the same name. It was someone on Twitter. But they turned around to someone and said, "Yes, but you didn't stand. You didn't stand against Guaido. You supported Juan Guaido." Like it was. It was the. It's some of those incel, edgy,
Okay,
wetter shit, to use the
I'm gonna
English
be honest here.
language.
Majority of the people who are who organized with the Amazon Union, they don't got time to fucking pay attention to all these this fucking shit that's going on outside of America. They're concerned about what's going on in their own country. Their own country. Most of these people don't even know who Juan Guaido is. They never heard of him.
Look at the process of radicalization. Stalin talks about this, but the Panthers go into even more detail. It's very important to see that the work of very much experience-based learners in their truest of forms. When a proletariat was truly a proletarian, and to be honest, experience was always the greatest teacher. But I mean, Gramsci gets into this too. The lower class are so used to experience-based learning. It's a second language, and so when you are engaging with the revolutionary proletariat, you've got to speak that second language first because you're going to get to them more because you don't speak their first language very well. I'm booming my voice a bit. I need to be careful. But so the that second language you got to speak to that. So when it comes to speaking to that, it's experience. So you got to show them. You got to do stuff. Go and tell them. They're gonna laugh at you. They've had enough politicians in their life, enough dickheads like this, enough everyone like this, telling them that we're gonna fight for working families. Yes, Caleb. Everyone has said that phrase since fucking 19. Whoever shoved their head up their ass. What the fucking the thing they want to see is people fixing stop signs, people fixing roads, people feeding people, people helping the homeless, people helping the sick, people helping the uneducated. And education is a very important part of that process. If we are to just be ignorant of these people and be like, okay, well, these guys are now actually acting in engagement. They have, through experience, through watching, through seeing, they've gone, okay, right now we need to make a union. And maybe there is a problem. Maybe some of them are bourgeois. Okay, who knows? We don't know that because no one's even done the analysis. No one even wants to stick their head in that window of the world to think about that shit. So they've now thrown themselves in a position where they're just excluding these people without even engaging with them first. Like I'm not fucking American. I shouldn't have to go and organize the American unions. I'm going to speak with them, and that's why I'm not going to do it. It's not my turf, not my situation. It almost feels like it's been made my problem because these supposed American communists are more bothered with what's going on in Ukraine than they are with what's going on in their own country. But they're not as bothered about what's going on in Palestine as they are about what's going on in Ukraine, especially considering they're happy to obfuscate China's aid in the Palestinian genocide.
I bring up the so-called communists in North America as well, because Amazon operates heavily in Canada as well as America, and the very fact that I'm just going to bring, I don't care if I bring this guy up, the fact that you don't that Be Liberal is more interested in just dunking on other people than doing even a quick video on this thing, it just says so much about these so-called communists in the first place. If they truly care about working class people, why do they show utter contempt for them? Like Haas on a live stream berated a fucking worker because he interrupted his stream. I mean, how bourgeois do you have to be to get angry over someone interrupting your stream because you have to get off your ass and get your fucking food?
Most delivery services tell you that they do not deliver to the absolute door of the inside flat. But some people will, because they will just do that. Like if you buzz and you let them in, they'll come in because you've buzzed them, let them in, and they're just like, oh, well, what am I going to do? Just stand there like a dickhead and buzz again? So they will come in and sort your stuff out. But it's common courtesy that you come out, to the front of the flat block at least, sort of. Half the time I'm not wearing shoes, so I'm not walking around the car park and other stuff like that. But you come to the door when they knock the flat door or buzz the buzzer. I live in the downstairs of a flat block, so it's a little easier for me to get to the door. But it doesn't matter. They buzz they shouldn't be having to trail up. You're complaining about the elevator. They shouldn't be having to trail up and down the elevator just because your head's so far up your ass. You've managed to formulate it back out of the other side of your body, like you've reformed your torso popping out of your fucking abdomen.
And also, like he has an elevator in his house. So okay, there's a number of things here. He has an elevator in his house. Like this is his own personal house. Like how many? Like that's a very posh thing to do. Like he's like not many people have elevators in their houses. And also, secondly, you're ordering from Uber Eats. This is another thing. Go out and get your own fucking food. Like this costs a lot of fucking money for delivery and other such things.
I'm getting to a specific point. He lives in an apartment. He lives in an apartment.
Okay.
He lives in downtown LA.
Gotcha. I thought he lived in Michigan still.
No. So the whole house thing I think is in LA. Because he flew over from LA to where was it? I can't remember. I swear he's in LA. If he's in Michigan and I'm wrong, I'll take that I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure he's in Los Wankerles.
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't shock me because he'd probably be in a very if he's in Los Angeles, he must be living in a very expensive part of Los Angeles. Like you can't be living in like fuck me. I can. It's kind of like New York City.
Man, it is
like
California.
Yeah. Well, obviously, then everybody gets everything for free there.
Yeah. Sorry, man. I know one person here who probably doesn't find the joke too funny.
I mean, it really does make me sick though when we see like all these communists like they're so silent every time there's a working class movement rising, and the Amazon you know union is not the only one that exists in this country.
Oh, there
There's
was a
plenty
mine
more.
strike, there was a steel workers strike, there was an automotive strike, there was a Kellogg strike. Literally nothing for every single one from any of the
But
Patsocs. I'm not
by the
joking.
by the way, there's a strike that's likely going to happen in Southern California regarding the grocery store workers.
Yeah, and what's it? The Kellogg strike? I can't remember what they won, but they won some concessions.
Yeah.
Um, there's strikes happening all over the place. Like the US is going to be one of the big places. I mean, think about when the Great Depression happened in the 20s. Britain sparked up like a flame. Even Stalin wrote about it, saying that Britain's very radical, but the bourgeoisie are just as radical. And that's what we're going to see now. We're going to see the people rise up and the bourgeoisie get radical. So they're going to start buying people off now. This is the point where they know they can't fuck about because they're going to lose everything if they don't stop. They've not had people striking en masse for fucking decades, and now people are starting to do it. That's terrifying the living shit out of them. That's why they were going mental of like how everyone got one of the things that got people mixed up with fucking Shitty Door and all his problems, Jimmy Dore, is that because he was preaching that people should mass strike, obviously for his own rad lib, or as I prefer to just outright call it, fascistic, because rad lib is just a way of hiding fascism in an innocent coat. Um, his own rad lib agenda. So like he managed to look like sort of someone who people could agree with because he was ostracized by the mainstream because his position was not against the system, which some of us may have been foolish to have think. I didn't think so much as against the system, but I thought he was someone who might have become a better fucking person. More fool me for thinking he'd still have a connection to his working class background. But nonetheless, um he fucking he fucking showed his thangs in the end and everyone saw it for what it is, but he looked like someone who was like a counter media, someone who might be a liberal, but you could rely on him for some information. Wasn't exactly the case in the end because it was all agendaed, whether intelligently or not. But we're also easily fooled by this process, and this is what's going to end up happening: is there's going to be mass strikes. They know it now. All these people in these alternate, I call it alternate mainstream because they've become mainstream themselves. These alternate
Yeah.
mainstream sources like Jimmy Dore have been preaching this for ages, and now it's just starting to happen anyway. So they know they can't stop it; it's coming. Jimmy managed to get onto radio stations and stuff like that for time. Like it's something that people can hear passively in certain parts of America just by switching to a certain station. So this is going to spread, and it's going to get vibrant. And the American communist movement is shriveled up like it already was shriveled up from the end of from the 80s really. But then all of a sudden, like as soon as things started to break down in 2010, and then Bernie came around and told everyone he'd do everything through government. Everyone shriveled up. All the Marxists, they all shriveled up and they all sided with it. They're like, "Yep, you know what? Fuck it. We're gonna throw away our fucking our signs, throw away our banners, throw away our strength, throw away our movement, throw away our push." And the March on Wall Street turned into the sit and wait for Bernie Street.
Yeah.
And look where we are now. Same fucking situation, but worse depression.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's not mention like at my job. I mean, that's how I knew about the strike. I didn't know it by the news. I heard it from my coworkers. They're like dismissing the strike, like as oh the workers are greedy or something.
Oh my god.
Oh God, yes. I have heard that from bourgeoisificated workers. It's either that or they'll say things like, "Oh, they're demanding." Like, I think it was like one time, some customers at my
Well,
job, they were saying, "Oh, these janitors demanding more pay, so to speak. Like I should be making more pay, not them." Like that's the kind
Oh
of
man.
mentality that is just absolutely
well,
You hear it from
ripe.
doctors who get paid like 80 grand a year.
Yeah.
well, I'm not going to dox myself, but let's just say I where I work is pretty bourgeois, and the people that get paid there get paid more than any worker at Vaughn's, Ralph's, and Albertsons.
He makes Gucci handbags.
It's like
Sorry, I just thought I'd say something that's not
it's
true
like
just to
what I
fucking
currently
spin it.
make is over $17 an hour.
Well, to be fair, like that, if you're working at Gucci, you probably make a lot more than that. Because actually, not if you're the guy in the sweatshop making the stuff.
Well, I
But if
can't
you're the guy who
say,
sells the stuff, you make a lot of money.
like I said, I can't say where I work, but I'm saying where I work, it's bouagified. I make over
He works at
$17.
Tesco.
I make $17 an hour, and the places that are protesting, how much are they making? Let's say $10, $12
I
an
think it's
hour.
between 12 to 15 or something
It's
like
like
that.
no, it's less than where I'm
Well,
working
so
at.
it depends on which sector of the work you put on, because yeah, there are some who are like next to minimum wage. They're talking like
Well,
9 to
well,
12, 9 to
well,
12 work.
I'm just saying that where I work at, the people that I work with, they are complaining about it when they do the exact same kind of job and they get paid more than the people that that are protesting to get for higher
So
wages.
capitalism actually creates this conundrum. It's weirdly some I've seen people who aren't even like full on left wingers mention a bit of, and so like in the system, everything always makes you spend out. Like you always spend to your limit. So like that's why everyone always buy more and more expensive stuff. The more and more and richer they got, they'll use more things. The more of it they have, because they can just they people get this mentality that you can just waste it because of the way capitalism works and the way in which we're sort of used to not being able to grab a lot of things. So when you have the ability to grab a lot of things, you get used to it and start spending a lot of shit, and start buying the better things and get used to the better things and keep to the better things. So like a lot of people are spending to their means. I mean, obviously, eventually you reach a point like millionaires and billionaires, you couldn't possibly spend to your means. But I'm talking with aristocrats and proletarians here specifically. So a lot of people in the middle class, they will spend to the point where they're living quote unquote paycheck to paycheck. And I'm not dismissing the people who actually do live quote paycheck to paycheck. I'm using the term specifically here for a point is that middle class, they'll put stuff away for holiday, but that's still money that's gone still. When they've put that in the saving account, that's money for their holiday stuff that they'll have put aside. And then everything else they'll spend on over expensive luxuries, over expensive subscriptions to this, subscriptions to that. You know, there'll be people who have like two or three different subscriptions to like TV movie services like Amazon TV, Netflix, and all that stuff. Now TV, and then they'll also have like a cinema pass and a Costa fucking card or some crap. Well, what's it? Half of America's Zionist, so it'll probably be a Starbucks card. Lol. But don't shop at either place. They're both shitholes. Just buy freeze dry coffee and stop doing the fancy American crap. You know, a fancy country. Live up to your name. But anyway, jokes aside, it's everything has a you can join this, you can join that. There's a club card for fucking everything. Actually, funnily, I jokingly mentioned British supermarket Tesco's that doesn't exist in America, but definitely Dark Snowy works at Tesco's. He actually flies all the way over to Birmingham every day. It's very expensive. I don't know where he gets the money. But
Well, the thing is,
jokes aside, Tesco's actually also has a club card. Everything has a club card, and with Tesco's, you need to sign up with your address and everything now. Never used to have to. You used to be able to just buy it from the shop. But as soon as they made it as something that's tied to offers, so to get certain things that are on deals, when they do the clear out offers and other stuff like that, sales, that's the word. You have to have a club card for most of them. So to get deals, to get discounts at the shop, you have to tell them exactly where you live, give them phone, electronic IP details and other stuff like that, because it has to be done on the phone. It can't be done through like written card or anything like that. It has to be done online. And you're giving them all this data now, not saying, oh, this is going to do outright evil, but they are using this to fax a lot of data about us, about where we go, what we buy, what we do. And it's not just to sell. Of course, that's one of the processes of it. It is to process and profile people on how to sell. But people need to stop thinking the bourgeoisie is just this entirely innate beast that isn't learning, because uh, they're aware that Marxism is looking to build a scientific way to deal with it. And they don't, and what people need to understand is, yes, the bourgeoisie aren't sitting there doing all the reading because that's not their job in the system. They make the cultural institutions of hegemonic control. They don't operate them. That they hire fucking paid bourgeois and labor aristocrats to organize the hegemonic institutions of power. The bourgeoisie don't know how to relate to human beings. How are they supposed to organize a cultural relativity fucking institution that has to be tied to certain parts of society? I mean, why do people think that the CIA is fucking ran by petty bourgeois and labor aristocratic folk? You don't see you don't see the billionaires go and be the agents. They pay the agents because that's how it works. The agents have to have a greater sense of flexibility of understanding people, but doing so in a perspective that's in line with the bourgeoisie's opinion and position around how people are and how they exist. This um almost like way that they look at the people as absolute pawns and mindless roaches to be manipulated with. And the
Yeah.
way I define the CIA is the cultural hegemonic institution that controls the other culture, or control. They do control, but that's not the right word. Sheep herds the other cultural hegemonic institutions of power. You would never be able to fully control them. There's always a contradiction and a conundrum that happens with the labor aristocracy slash petty bourgeoisie, unless that sometimes their ambition could get even too big for the liking of the bourgeoisie. It gets a bit scary for them because the neo feudalism it comes in different outlets, and not all of it wants to keep capitalism. I mean, the original start of neo feudalism actually started with the primitivist movement against the industrialization, and that was split between people that wanted to go before mercantilism, so before the first emergence of modern capitalism, not modern in the term modern from like the 18th to 21st century. I mean
I
modern as in the comparative to the upstart of primitive capitalism of the Roman Empire, the reemergence of capital, let's put it that way.
I
Yeah.
think
um
we should have this go back to what the topic of the stream is.
So, yeah, well, if we're gonna go back to the topic of the stream with like the Amazon Union thing, I think we can talk about maybe how
Well,
hard it is to unionize in a lot of these businesses and other such things. Um, like there's like the process is basically like so basically you have to like apply like to officially get a union, the unionization it at your business or place of which you work at, and then you have to file, and then you have to go to like the Bureau of Labor and such things, and then after like several weeks of pensioning, well, you have to get like a signature of like what was it like half of your employees. But the thing is though, between the time that you get that and the time of vote for when it's supposed to be, they've already browbeat like half, like almost like all the employees into not voting for it. So it's like you need to get like 75, 85% just to get even to like the vote, just at even having the hope of passing it. Because like that's how they kind of like do their like little thing basically.
well, getting a union is very it's become even more difficult since Reaganomics took over in America. It's become even harder than it was, before that. Like it's
Yeah,
rare that we see a new union form, and this is the sign that things are not looking too good for capitalism. And as we see unions rise, we're going to see fascism become more open. They're no longer going to hide it.
yeah,
So that's the thing.
we've already seen that.
Even though
yeah,
we should celebrate this small victory, we should also be aware that we're going to see crackdowns on unions happen more because of this. In fact, I'd argue that they're going to get even more stricter at a lot of jobs. In fact, just mentioning the word union in some jobs can get you fired. Like,
it's it's at a point where we've also got to remember that if the proletariat, whether bourgeoisificated or not, or the bourgeoisificated would make this even more a pressing issue. If they're becoming conscious, then how then the labor aristocracy must be going conscious as well in their operations, and they're going to have to push against any proletarian interests. That's why you're seeing the Marpinite crowd stand against this activity of proletarian action. They always seem to, they've shown themselves to be against the lumpen. They've shown themselves to be against the proletariat. Anything they said about us being anti-proletarian and all that bullshit, they're full
Yeah.
of fucking shit, and it's been shown every turn of the way. I mentioned this, I think it was like 2 months ago. Because there was a miners' strike that happened in the middle of last year, and there was a steelworker strike as well. There was a couple other strikes, but I don't really know too much about them. And Nice Dickens talks about it. Quiet then, quiet now, quiet all the time because they don't give a shit. Well, actually, it's even worse than that. They have a class interest and political agenda against this shit. It's not beneficial for them, and they don't like it when the people they see as useless eaters get what they want. Like,
Yeah.
like I've heard a lot of people say to me, the Marpinites are the real Malthusians or
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
eugenicists, to be real.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, that's why they support China, and that's why they support the fucking freedom convoy as well. They're trying to redefine what working class is. For them, it's like these petty bourgeois, like truck owner and operators. Like this is for them what the real working class is, and that's what this this is why I find the labor aristocracy so and these petty bourgeois people so freaking dangerous. Um, they use this like pseudo leftist rhetoric to push their bullshit. It reminds me a lot of like because we cite like Hitler didn't have a leftist background as opposed to Mussolini or Mosley growing up or anything like that, but he did have Goebbels, and Goebbels knew Marxism very well, and he knew how to use that kind of pseudo leftist rhetoric um, to his advantage. Like when they were fighting the British, right away he turned it into a fight between the oligarchy versus the people. And I remember this one documentary I was watching when the German troops entered into Belgium, and they were talking to the Belgian citizens. The German troops told them, we have liberated you from British colonialism." Now think about that. That's not something that's like that comes from the very top all the way down to like the average rank and file soldier, because that's how like that propaganda system works in the army and such things. So like this is why um, this is why people like fucking Caleb and Culture Thug and all the rest of these people are so fucking dangerous. Is um, they're they want to both weaponize sections of the proletariat and lumpen against other sections of it for their own class interests.
It's divide and conquer, classic strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, think about this as well. We literally had Caleb turn around and defend Bonapartism. Like, what the actual fuck? And we know he's defending it because he said Lincoln and what's it? Lincoln and
FDR.
Roosevelt. That's
FDR.
it. Fucking dickbag Roosevelt. That's what it stands for, right?
Yeah.
Fucking dickbag Roosevelt. He turned around. You're never going to be monetized when I'm on the channel. But fucking dickbag Roosevelt. What's it? Those two. He called them Kaiserists, but well, Bonapartists. Same difference. I use Kaiserist because it's more blatant to what it is. Not everyone fucking gives a shit about who Napoleon Bonaparte is, but everyone knows who Kaiser is. Um, Fucking, that's probably going to make the Patsoc seethe because they probably all lick ass fucking Bonaparte like he fucking shat from the heavens. But I don't even agree with Marx's point on like progressive Bonapartism. I thought that was Eurocentric as fuck. But I'm not getting into that. What I wanted to get into, sorry, I'm rambling. My head's a bit scrambled. Is that the guy is preaching Bonapartism openly now. He's comfortable. He's shown comfort in his positions and advanced that comfort in his positions. This is the arduation of fascism, where it disguises itself with leftistic principles. It starts to actuate and actuate and actuate, and once it gets its wheels going, it feels it can start dropping a lot of the and it will start dropping a lot of the facade.
Yeah, and according to Caleb, we need Bonapartism in order to get to socialism, because I've heard how his quote unquote plans to get to socialism is, and it's basically like building a fascist movement, and eventually a Kaiser or a Bonapartist figure will arise, and they will be the ones guiding this Bonaparte figure to take power, and eventually they will do the social democracy thing, which will eventually they'll have to beat back the bourgeoisie. I mean, this is what Caleb is saying, not what I'm saying. Beat back the bourgeoisie, and then eventually it'll get socialism. But we know for
How much do you bet that Caleb Maupin is actually using that as another dog whistle for you know what?
wait, which one?
What statement? Sorry.
Yeah.
Push back against the bourgeoisie.
Um,
Oh,
so he is doing somewhat similar to that. So he's used the word cabal several times, like rapidly and openly talks about a cabal amongst the which is anti-Semitic. But he also, so I mean, he does the LaRouche thing where they overemphasize Britain's like control over America and other crap like that, as if like we're still the masterminds of everything. Like we're still big evil imperialist power that's trying to that will always want to be hegemonic again. That's imperialism for you. But Caleb has this sort of thing similar to LaRouche, where it's like this over centralization of treating Britain in the way that like stereotypes, and not to offend us, but we don't give a shit. I mean, fuck me, I'm not, when English not British. I was saying this to someone today, English not British. So you can criticize Britain all day long. I couldn't give a fuck. But when you're using it as a way that's that's been pointed out by many people and comes across to me as anti-Semitic, um, then it feels like you are using it as a way to hide the term Jews.
I
But he
Well, I think that's what he means when he says pushing back against the bourgeoisie.
but
I don't think he
so
means what
he
he
did.
actually
Sorry, this is what I
says.
was about to get to. Is that he does say, because I'm rambling again, and I do apologize, but he does say that there is a faction of the bourgeoisie that are worth siding with and that are allies, essentially.
yep,
Um, and he claimed like this is where like the whole socialist billionaires bullshit comes from. It's like the good bourgeoisie versus the bad bourgeoisie. That's exactly what Hitler preached with Germany. What's it? Tick actually did a video where he literally one for one promoted what the Nazis used to talk about in the 20s, where it was literally he said this. So what the difference between Nazis and the USSR? The USSR got rid of the bourgeoisie, whilst the Germans got rid of the Jewish bourgeoisie. And that was what the Nazis used to preach. They used to go on about getting rid of the bad bourgeoisie, which they openly called the Jewish bourgeoisie. They openly went on about how the Jews from all this, that, and the other were controlling manipulated all the fucking time. Jewish banker this, Jewish
yeah,
businessman that, Jewish industrialist that, all the
yeah.
time. This is the
Nowadays,
same shit.
and nowadays they just simply cover up the Jewish bourgeoisie for people like George Soros, like fucking Jagoff Tinkle. Jagoff Tinkle literally said that Ukraine apparently was controlled by literally quote one Jew. Like literally, that's what he said. He basically
But
said that Ukraine is run by.
he said one Jew. Did he actually say that?
He said that Ukraine is controlled by George Soros, and George Soros is a straight up anti Semitic dog whistle that Nazis use.
Oh God. But and of course, for those my viewers, what does this have to do with the Amazon Union? You may ask. And why are you talking about these people so much? Because it's relevant because the makings of history is happening right now as we speak. And small victories do eventually turn out to be big victories in down the road. And the very fact that in this historical moment you're seeing radio silence from these so-called communists speaks everything. And I don't know about you guys, but I hold communists to a very high standard. And I expect nothing but principles from communists. If you're not going to stand by the working class, then why are you even a communist? Why do you call yourself a communist? What the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Like, there is no middle ground on principles, and this is one case you cannot say no. Well, these people, blah 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 blah. It's like I don't care what problematic things some of these people may hold. The very fact it was everyday people, a guy that got fired, by the way, that fought for the people in order to fight for safer working conditions is and won is something that should be celebrated.
Yeah.
And if you don't celebrate, then then you're on the side of the bosses. You're on the side of the police. You're on the side of people that don't support workers in general. It's like stop calling yourself a communist and just embrace what you actually are. You are a fucking fascist.
And the guy who unionized the Amazon workers, like his story is very, very very based. I would say it's not like a story like all these like people, these fuckers, like Caleb or anything like that. No, no, he's straight from the ground all the way to the top. He said, "Look, I got fired for talking out against you fuckers, so I'm going to come back and I am going to lead the workers um, and organize them, and that's what we should be doing. But instead, what we're getting is people, saying this or that, or hey, why don't you lick China's ass more and promote Chinese imperialism, or talk about Juan Guaido or other such fucking things. It's like it's like inserting it's like in it's basically like derailing is what they're doing. Like they're trying to be wreckers here, and um oh fuck, I lost my
I'm
point
being
there
more
again.
convinced that the CPI is a organization of wreckers. Because why else would they be so fixated on waging war with other fucking leftists rather than actually waging war against the supposed enemies of the workers, the fascists?
Yeah, and oh well, I mean they're acting like fucking cultists. They're going around with like these uh outdated DPR flags and a ridiculously enlarged Soviet flag, um, along with U.S. flags, and they're creating all this kind of confusion. When people look at that, they're fucking they don't know what the fuck all these flags are. They're looking at that and saying, "What the fuck are you guys doing? You're acting like fucking crazy people. You're just going around saying socialism now, socialism now. You're looking like fucking like a fucking dingus, honestly."
They're a bunch of fucking weirdos. That's exactly what they fucking are. It's like they're not actually acting like normal fucking human beings. It's like no normal fucking person goes around the fucking street waving socialism now, socialism now. No. It's like when people look at you, especially in a country that's anti-communist, they're like, "Get out of here, you fucking crazy commie."
Yeah,
It's like rather than actually change people's perception of what a socialist is, they fucking act like the stereotypical spoiled college kids. That's exactly what they are. None of these people have actually. I don't think they've actually been around an actual worker in their life.
well, to be fair, Caleb did work at a college sandwich shop for like 6 months,
6 weeks.
like 6 weeks.
Yeah,
So he,
spring break. So yeah, like it's 6 to 8 weeks at most.
I
so
fucking
he,
worked at a Pizza Hut for like a few months. It wasn't fun.
But I mean, like he said that to turn around and doubt the 10 years of working life that Fort Simon had at the time. I think it was 10 years, somewhere like that, 10 or 12 years of working life that Fort Simon had at the time. And it's like, come on, man, like like fucking talk
No,
about bringing a pencil to a sword fight. What? You said you've worked 10 years, but you said Burger King. Well, I don't think that's the way you say Burger King. You know how I know? I worked at a college sandwich shop for 6 weeks, so I know how to say Burger King properly. Fuck you, Fort Slime. That was Caleb Maupin. That is my fucking best Caleb Maupin impression. 10 out of 10. When am I gonna get paid now? I thought I was told this involved money.
you know,
Joking.
I watched Sophie's from Mars' stream on Caleb Maupin's book on BreadTube.
Oh
He
God.
he,
sounds more unhinged than I actually thought imaginable.
yeah, he's been going off on Sophie on Mars for some.
It's like
Like he's
fucking
been like making
Christ.
like, yeah, he's
Drill
been.
tweets about he stopped putting the drill tweets into the books and started putting them actually on Twitter. Thank God he found out how to use Twitter. Maybe he'll stop writing now.
I, I've actually, she okay. She's some irrelevant person that makes some videos. Okay,
I mean, so not entirely irrelevant,
and
and like Twitter had. So if Twitter hadn't blocked me, I was gonna message them because they said that like I think it was I can't remember which Caleb Bobbin stream it was on. I think it was the BreadTube one that they tried like this they got loads of shit around this and mainly I think some of these Patsoc types. She says like from ML, but I think it was from actual MLs. And I think even she said that themselves. Even MLs wouldn't like what's being represented by a lot of these people. So like what's it? I wanted to speak to him because she said that she's anarchistic and she's engaged anarchists and like a lot of anarchists is smart enough to not say or when someone's smart enough to not tell everyone where they're coming from organization wise, I'm like, okay, this person's at least thinking to some degree. So I was like, okay, I'm going to speak with them, not to make any alliance or anything else like that. I just want to know some things. I want to know where I can start building connections with other anarchist talks. You got to start somewhere. The moment I follow them and I start wanting to speak with them, I said something else on Twitter before I managed to get a message to them because I had messaged them yet what's it to put it in ways where YouTube won't lose its shit. I said that that transphobes' faces should be acquainted with the flaw with aggressive force and basically contact. Yeah, it was aggressive. The way I put it on Black Internationalist video to not get my comment removed was I suggested their face should make aggressive contact to the curb with my foot on the other side of it. Um, curb stomping for those who are not this for the uninitiated, um, and that got me banned off Twitter. And then when I made a new account and tried to speak with Socialism for All, I got banned again within like 15 seconds of making a new account. And I waited like nearly a month or two before I made that new account. Twitter just doesn't want me on there.
Yeah,
you're
it's kind
you're not missing out on much. Trust me.
No, I'm not, but sometimes I find it funny just taking the piss out of fucking like some of these really reactionary right wing aristocratic types. Because that's all that's really on there. I rarely see lumpen brothers and sisters on there, and I think I had one argument with a lumpen black comrade about social imperialism, and we didn't even fall out about it. We just both got really antsy with each other, and I lost my shit towards the end and went a bit too far. I got well too over defensive. That's all it was really. But didn't take issue with me getting over defensive. He just noted that I was taking things way too hard. But we had an argument. We didn't really fall out. Other than that, whenever I speak with people who are off the street or a man them like um what's it? I can't remember. I fucking had his first name on the end of my tongue, and I always forget it. But it's the guy who had marked as my N word account. He was an absolute G. Loved him to bits. Um, every time I ever pop up, what's it? I always either get a like or a nice little sort of comment relating to my thing. Like the guy's a geezer, absolute lovable geezer. All out to him. And I loved watching his content. But what's it? I never really watched him on the platform. I always watched him on Twitter. I don't know what other platforms he is. I think he's got a YouTube channel. I'll have to fucking find it. But nah, what's it? Giza was an absolute legend. It was some of the things like that what I liked it, and it was people like what's it? There's a good ML comrade that I met. Is what his name mentioned him as a good comrade ML member I met through that, and some good MLM third worldists as well. So it has been useful at times as a thing for my channel as a mediator, but otherwise, yeah, as you say, not missing much. It's just a sheep herd mess of aristocrats all bitching, like
Well,
fucking
it's
90% aristocracy, 10% fucking
it's like
delinquency.
it's like none of this stuff on like Twitter. Like, what's funny is like it's funny just how like this entire situation, the true colors of these pet socks are getting more revealed because they have a chance. They had a chance to prove once and for all they support the workers. I mean, Dust James, shame on you. You're from a fucking poor fucking background. You're not even fucking even talking about this. Shame on you. You better support Nazis.
Yeah, and he'll retweet stuff like, "Oh, the Black Sun," and claim, "Oh, well, I didn't know what the Black Sun is." Like, fuck me. Like, Nazi symbols aren't really that hard to notice. You can tell like fascist aesthetics very, very well. Like, they're not like the hardest thing to decipher. It's always got like that, like, very like neat kind of symbols to them, looking like runes or other such things. Um,
You,
and
can we actually talk about another thing that's really disgusting about these so-called people that pretend they act like they care about the working class, they really don't. Why the
yeah,
fuck did they have a that fucking flag that that looked like something from the fucking like imperialist Russia?
Well, that eagle is the Russian imperial eagle, so
yep,
It's like
yeah,
it's like
it's
do
not
I
even
have
the
to
official
explain?
flag of the republic. So I like
Do I have to explain to people what the fuck the eagle represents? Do I have to explain to anyone what the eagle is?
yeah. So for those who don't know, eagles in any nation it comes from. Some people might not see it that way, but they don't understand out of not ignorance because of stupidity, ignorance just because we're not told. It's not that anyone's fault that they're. Well, it is with these first world people, but I'm more getting to third world people because there are some nations like Egypt where people get a bit confused because it is an old symbol that's always been there. But eagles are predators. That's the whole point. It's predators. Those who aren't the eagle nation of the prey. That's always what it's meant. That's the symbolism of the eagle. It's an individualist predator. It's very Greek. I don't think it comes from Greece, but it feels very Greek. What I'm referring to is humanism, which originally comes from Greece, and that's where the individualism of the Enlightenment era comes from, along with Victorian humanism, which was a modernization of humanism to fit the outlet of imperialism when Britain was developing imperialism in the 1800s.
Like, here's the thing. I think the eagle, the animal, is a beautiful animal. But having that beautiful animal attached to a sim to such a symbol, it's like it's no coincidence that every fascist country that has existed, past and present, has an eagle. Like from the Nazis to America to the former you know imperial empire of Russia.
We have a lion. Don't know what the
I
symbolism is there. I guess
I can't comment what a
they're
king,
lion is.
monarchy.
lions. Well, lions are actually very individualistic.
Isn't that
Uh,
isn't that a misconception? Like, because
I,
I've
I,
seen that lions have a very interesting family dynamic, and they typically live in packs and hunt to survive as a pack group. So, because I mean,
I think
tigers are individualistic. That I'd agree with. Lions are they live in packs. They might hunt on their own, but they survive because they live together. I don't think tigers would. I don't think lions would get on very well in a tiger style environment where they are spending most of their time nomadically wandering around.
well, I'm not
yeah,
saying. Okay, here's the thing. The reason why
Quite
I'm
funny
bringing
over
this
there.
up because Symbols are everything. And a supposed communist organization is using fascist imagery to spread their propaganda. The American flag, which is basically a shittier version of the British flag.
How
I'm
could you
sorry.
make the Union Jack worse? I've always wanted to figure this out. How the fuck did you manage that?
I mean, yeah, it's an awful flag.
And it
I'm
seems to
surprised
get
you guys
worse.
didn't just make the French flag sideways or something and beat the Danish to it. Like,
And I actually think it's an insult having that flag alongside, in my opinion, the greatest flag of all, the communist flag. It's an insult.
do you know what I love though? So Britain took the Georgian cross for its flag because we're a Christian country, and the Georgian cross is quite important to Christianity. But comes from Georgia. So Georgia, when they made their flag, they were like, "All right, then the British have taken the Georgian cross, but the English taken the Georgian cross, and then the British went and merged it into this flag where you can barely even see it." So to make sure we don't get confused with the English, but we make a statement of ourselves where our flag just looks a million times better than both the English and the British flag. We're gonna go and stick not just one Georgian cross on it. There's gonna be 5 on it, one in the middle, and then one in every fucking square. It's beautiful. I love it. I love the new Georgian flag. I think it's from the end of the Soviet Union, and it's wicked. Change one of the crosses out for a fucking hammer and sickle, and you've tickled my testicles, Georgia. No, well, if you do all the communist stuff too, but you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
that flag would look sick. I'm a big fan of vexillology. For those who might not know.
And since we're talking about symbols and other such things, can we talk about what's his name? That fucking jagoff. The fucking
Jack off Tingle.
no, the butterface. What's his face? Keaton Mansfield.
Oh yeah,
Did you see?
fucking kiss
I
ass
don't
man
even know who the
spread.
hell he is. I'll let you guys speak about
Kiss
him.
ass man spread is the one I always say dresses like a slaver. He's the ginger geezer, not Caleb Moff. Not to be confused with the main ginger geezer. He's the second in command ginger geezer. I know it's a small world.
He holds up the Z symbol at the CPI USA conference in
He's the
Austin.
big geezer. He looks like he fucking probably plays some sport or is fucking doing some form of weights or something because he doesn't look like a scrawny geezer. It's either that or he wears a lot of suits and when he goes home he takes off like 5 suits because he's on another level than even Caleb could reach.
Yeah, and the re and here's the thing. Caleb knows about QAnon. He even tried to downplay it previously, prior to
Wow.
January 6th. He tried to downplay it and said, "Oh, it's just some fringe movement that's not really relevant at all." And it's like, no, that's exactly where the entire energy and base around the Trump movement is at.
I said
Like,
some stupid shit around that time. I'm not giving him any credence, but around the time, if anything said between around the time of January until June, I can understand why people might have got confused on stuff because we had so many different media sources claiming they're not mainstream, they're counter this, counter that, pushing 17 different narratives. But Caleb was one of those people pushing the narratives. That's why I'm not giving defense to him. He was one of the people that
yeah,
made it confusing. I had to listen to
yeah,
him, I had to listen to that, listen to this, and this was before. Well, this was after I was already sus of Caleb, but not at the point I disowned him. Not at the point I'd gone, okay, he's a lost cause. Done with
yeah.
him.
That's the same for me, basically. And but the thing is, though, is like he knows about QAnon, so him promoting this Z shit is very sus indeed. Like this is straight up cultist level shit here, with like the Z and such. And I think the Russian government knows about they know about like QAnon cultists and all this other shit. The idea that there's a good faction in the U.S. government and the patriots just need to take it back, but they need to use elements of the quote deep state in order to do that. Doesn't this sound very similar to a certain good faction of the bourgeoisie versus the bad one? Um, and but yeah, this Z shit. I've had several people tell me that people in Russia or at least what they would call the blue state parts of Russia. So, like the liberal parts of Russia that are not pro Putin at all or anything such. Even they're looking at the Z shit and they're saying it's very fascistic, based off what they're seeing of it, and it's fucking terrifying, honestly. QAnon people are terrifying, and now we got fucking Xenon shit. Um, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's super quiet here.
I'm still here. I've heard everything. It is it is terrifying, QAnon. People underestimate, don't like understand how dangerous they truly are.
Yeah, and I think that's what Caleb is trying to do, because you can't look at the Z and not see Q there. Like, honestly, the first time I saw that, I immediately connected one and one, QAnon, right there and there. And that, like, you know, there is a need for a replacement for Q ever since, Trump basically left the scene and Q just kind of disappeared off the internet, basically. So I could see something like Z filling that void, basically. It's terrifying because, like, these people, they're you can't even remotely communicate with these people. And they're part of upper echelons of government. Like I think there was like one QAnon lady at the January 6th protest who was part of like the Air Force, and the Air Force, as most of us know, is like the most reactionary part of the U.S. military, because generally speaking, like most people like do not support sending ground troops or anything like that over to other countries. But the one thing that's always get to go, always ready to be deployed for the U.S. is the Air Force, because they can just bomb other countries like willy nilly and not have to worry about a fucking any retaliation or anything like that. We saw that with like Syria and other places like that, or fucking anywhere else we're just fucking bombing nonstop.
Those who serve in the Air Force, on what this is not something I should, I is shocking, but what I've observed, they're the most fascist of any members of the population
Yep.
when it comes to veterans.
Yeah. It's usually like the Air Force is the most uh, fascist-y part of the military, while the Navy is the most progressive for the most part.
But why the Navy? I don't understand this culture.
Um, could be just like various factors, but I think a lot of it may have to do with just being away from actual, like the like being over, being trying to think here. I swear, because every time I think of Navy now, I always think of like Alexander Dubin talking about the
Oh
naval
God,
versus land power. Like, he actually said that all of history is down to just naval versus land power. He actually said that, and it's like it's just a really oversimplification of history. It's like the idea that like Russia doesn't have a naval power now or something like that, and they're fighting the
that's
yeah,
absurd.
yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
Like anyone that says that is not fucking being honest.
Yeah, well, he's pushing that Eurasianism bullshit. He's trying to suck people into the idea that it's not, you know, the the oppressed, the proletariat versus the exploitative class, the bourgeoisie. It's no. It's East versus West, and that's what we should be focusing on. And that's what Caleb is also promoting too. He's trying to suck us in into this East-West bullshit. Um, and we know for a fact that the East can be just as um, destructive, if not even more so, than the West. Um, and if given the power to take, if given, the ability to take power, I could see a place like China uh, being even more exploitative. Well, not through like any through like U.S. is like dominating through hard power, through like war, through military spending, through other such things, sanctions. I could see China seems to be more on the path of Mosleism. I see, like, the idea of just building up institutions in these third world countries and um, racking them up into debt through unfair trade deals and other such things.
Well, I do think having this mindset of East versus West is basically narrow things down to good versus evil. That's essentially what it is essentially, when it's far more complicated than that.
Yeah, it's but
Because by
they
that logic, Japan, one of the most, and South Korea, one of the most fascist countries on the planet, and Israel, they're in the East.
well,
The most fascist countries are in the East.
well, Russia and China are both pretty buddy buddy with Israel, so I guess that for them, um, I guess they'd be okay with that.
So I'm just saying that it's dangerous to say, because don't get me wrong, there's fascism everywhere in the West, but we can't ignore how there's some countries in the East that can rival America in terms of its fascism. Like Israel is pretty openly fascist. Japan is pretty much is openly fascist. Fucking
South
South,
Korea,
yeah, those three countries are like the most fascist in the world. America is looking to outpace like one of those countries, though I don't think I think America is still more fascist, like on principle, than those countries. But I'm talking about in terms of open fascism. Like America exploits fascism everywhere. But I actually think potentially Russia and China are potentially more dangerous, considering China could fucking stop Israel in its tracks or sabotage its economy easily by refusing to trade, but it won't.
yeah,
Same thing with Russia.
it would be loss of too much profit to not trade with them. And I think Israel looks at their models of government, which are fascist, and they want to amplify that model. Um,
Uh,
I don't. I think that's why Israel's so buddy buddy with that. Plus the Gulf states too. I think
well,
the Gulf.
there is a lot of things that are in Israel that's there's a conflict because there's sections I'm pretty sure that want to go with the China model, and those who are more want to go by more of the American model.
Yep. Yep. And that's like
And
that's where like the real split among these fascist types are.
personally, I actually see the American model winning out in Israel, considering it like it's a European and American project at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. But I also see the possibility of America um, being bought out and propped up by the Chinese Empire as well. So there's a possibility of that because these empires don't want other empires to collapse. They just prop each other up.
That's a topic for a different stream. We should focus on the since we don't have much to say. We've been constantly changing the topic. I feel like we should get back to the topic and give our final thoughts on the Amazon Union and the Patsocs, and how do you think we should proceed going forward?
I think that's a good idea. Yep. Yeah, I think to give my final thoughts about these fucking Patsoc types, asshole types, like we need to stop acting like mutual aid is a bad thing. Like the idea that it's all just a bunch of fucking charity and lumping it all in together and other such things. It's like, no, charity is for like a profit. It's for people that want to just sit on these boards and just rake in money. I don't know if the Red Cross still has a good glowing um, view as an organization today, but for a while it was regarded as one of the premier organizations around the world, and they do whenever they go anywhere they just rake in a bunch of money and not do jack shit pretty much. We need to get on the ground, build up these institutions through mutual aid and propagate propagate our ideas out to the masses, because that's what we really have to do.
So imagine you're not a fan of Gordon Morpin then.
Yeah.
Caleb's father is was on several different boards for charities for those who are uninitiated. But me, how no one figured this out? It's so easy to find Caleb's father. Like I just have to find people with the name Morpin in Ohio.
On this thing that Stone's talking about, you could watch any of his Mop and Watch streams, which he goes into detail greatly about this.
Yeah. Which they are afraid of.
Well, that's it. Sometimes we get so much caught into discussions of detail we don't even get for the videos we've planned to do for special mopping watches, and then videos disappear. Oh, we got to criticize a bunch of fascists and a bunch of supposed MLs being pussyholes and covering their tracks. But I will get into this topic to conclude. So, yeah, what Gangara said, absolutely ditto to that. So, community aid, it's sort of one of the really important things about communism is that we're not about making money off people. Like, it's not about spiting people. So all this like charity-based stuff or starting to profitize ourselves, doing merchandise, all this special live stream for people who pay you this money and that. Suck your mom. Like, fuck off. Like, that is such like disgusting bullshit. And these people are just sort of fantasizing about how much they can fucking rant and rave and rob people while they build a movement that's not proletarian, it's petty bourgeois, but they'll mask it in all the proletarian sympathies. No, charity is things that like CPGBML do. They take, and they don't give back to the community. They don't do shit for the community. And then they turn around. I've had CPGBMLs do this to myself, and these CPGBML members, some of them don't support mopping, some of them do support it. It's one of them. They're all a bunch of fucking China simps, and their leader likes mopping. So I'm using them as an example because it's similar shit. They sell a newspaper, they do party fees, they do nothing for the people, and they call community aid projects charities. And this is the same shit you'll get from the Patsoc crowd. I guarantee you they'll call Panther Work charity. Fucking educating the people, feeding the people, doing work for the people, striking with the people, organizing the people. That is all a part of the necessities of work, and aid heavily comes into this. So when these people disregard aid, they are also disregarding education. They are disregarding striking. They're disregarding organizing. All they want to do is sit in high chairs, talk books, and organize middle-class people into brain trusts and think tanks and take over the system for their own fucking monogamous game. No, not monogamous, monotonous, sorry, English words. Monotonous game. It means absolute haywire pain in the ass bullshit, just for those who don't get English terminology. Because it's messy, I get messed up with it.
They're just social democrats. That's exactly what they are. They're not even fucking communists.
Yeah, I mean, it's like fucking what's it?
It's funny how
Worse than Khrushchevites, and I don't know how you managed that. Fucking hell.
it's funny. It's
Yeah.
like they hate AOC so much, yet they are just like her and Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, they're just like the other side of the other side of the cheap per se. Um,
One
I
shop's
saw,
at Costa, the other shop's at Starbucks.
It's
and
like not,
and did you
these
see
people
like
are against any form of struggle, even if it's non-violent. It's like, okay, so you're against people unionizing, which okay,
Oh, my tea went cold.
it's like you're against the people unionizing, you're against mutual aid of any kind. What the fuck are you for? I mean, real. If you're a communist, you call yourselves communists, that you're champions of the working class, you care about the working class. What the fuck are you advocating for? Answer me, because it seems like everything you say is vague, and the meaning can change at any moment because you guys don't have anything to offer, but people in your class interests. That's what I'm getting, but I'm trying to be charitable here for those of you who support the Patsocs, who kind of still support the working class, whatever. Just tell me, what the fuck are you fighting for? Who are you fighting for? Are you fighting for the workers or are you fighting for the bosses? Because if you're not on the side of the workers, by not supporting mutual aid, by not supporting unions, you're not supporting people, any of their efforts against this monstrous state that is late stage capitalism, then as far as I'm concerned, you're not a comrade, you're an enemy. And you might as well stand alongside the Democrats and the Republicans and Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates. You might as well stand with them because you believe in the exact same thing they believe. They're all union busting. They don't support unions. They don't support people organizing for themselves. You look at people as they're a bunch of stupid automatons that the only thing they're useful for is providing you whatever thing that you fucking need. Whatever. We're not fucking slaves. We're not your fucking slaves. We're living, breathing human beings that actually have things that we actually want to do. And you know what? If me supporting the workers makes me ultra left, then ultra left has no meaning anymore. So fuck Patsocs and their so-called fucking positions on the working class. You support fascism. You don't support communism, and that's all I'll have to say.
Fucking, that's it. If we're to use like old video game language, ultra is better than super, so that means we're just ultra communists. Well, that means we're
yeah.
super communism coming to you next theater. Coming to you next theater. Coming to you Monday on. I can't do adverts. Americans, you guys are good at adverts. You take it from here.
Coming this summer. But yeah,
Coming
like
to
what's
you
it?
on Sony Betamax, because that's the best thing to name a product that will definitely become the top of the fucking box office. Betamax. It's
Next
definitely
on
gonna
the
sell.
next episode on Pet Sock Z.
On the
Like,
next episode of Boomer Normals, what's it? Suited tortoises. Um, it's just a bunch of turtles in suits. They don't talk. The end.
like you guys, more and more people are calling you out. It's like more and more people are seeing through your shit. All right.
I mean, is this something that we mentioned to each other the other day? Both to you, I both mentioned it to you two separately. Like for months now, like titty liberal has been like mentioning me and trying to bring me up, and I won't even watch the videos. I've just had people telling me because I don't care for it. His voice annoys me. It sounds like he's trying to sell me something, like an American salesman, like fucking that heavy news presenter style voice. It's like, you sound like you're about to tell me that you're sponsored by Raytheon. Don't.
I can't.
And
Yeah,
the guy is not worth anything. He's some internet driven like fucking incel in Canada who simps for fucking Caleb Maupin. Like, how low do you really want me to throw him a bar? The only reason I come onto their
It's
stream
not
was
just
to call them
Caleb Maupin.
inexperienced and have a laugh at them, but they kicked me out before I could even terrorize them.
It's not even just Caleb Maupin. It's fucking a country he has never set foot in or experienced living in.
Yeah. And he has the nerve to even call my name out. I just happened to catch that because I was just watching the stream, and then just all of a sudden is the nerve to like call my name out and call me like highlight. He highlights my YouTube comment very quickly, but he disappears it very quickly. And I was talking. The
Oh, that's because
comment literally.
you'll shadow ban you. So do you know what it is? You became even more noticeable when you went on the thing with default. But I was told by a good comrade, a mouse comrade, that B level does scan my streams all the time and will snippet bits and stuff like that. So he knows who you are because you've been on my streams and you're on long enough and talking long enough and saying enough stuff. So become notable. Like I find it quite funny the way that they're so bothered about me when I have like 110 subscribers. I am literally as nothing could be. Like fucking genuinely choke on a sausage, like, and not even innuendo wise. Like, just grab a Richmond's from Tesco's or your nearest Canadian knockoff Tesco's and stuff a whole pack in your mouth and just swallow instantly. Get the food poisoning. Don't cook them. Be a man. You guys keep doing all this toxic masculinity stuff. Go on, be a real man. Go eat raw fucking pork and shit yourself to death.
It's
The most manliest thing you can ever do as an American.
He's always done this, even during the Star Wars days. He did this too. I'm not even joking. This is nothing new, and I'm speaking as someone that's actually been around B level for a long time. I can tell you, he always did this. You can even ask Broden about this, and he could confirm it too. B
It's
liberal has
childish.
always done this. It's nothing new, and that's one thing I gotta make it known to people here. Everything you see from B level, everything you hear from B level is nothing new. In fact, any evidence that he did it before, I wish I could tell you, because B liberal delete every time he has a spat with anyone, and this is not an exaggeration, he deletes every content that they're in. No joke.
Yeah, but so that's so that I'm glad you. I didn't overtalk you, and I let you finish because it was important that you said that last bit because it didn't really help. So I was going to get into because it's like I'm calling this childish, but everything that the aristocracy does seem childish to the lower class. I mean, just saying that doesn't really define too much. But look, he is behaving very aristocratically, and so me and Gangaris was talking about this. He was wondering whether it's like B level fuels a lot of Caleb's ranting around and looking at everything that comes to him. But no, the way I put it is that Caleb's already like this. I mean, we've seen plenty of this throughout his past, and he's a very off the cuff guy who's always fucking talking out his ass. B level's just another aristocrat that's enabling this process. These people are grouping together because they think alike already. Like, Caleb will be grooming a lot of people, sure, but not everyone he gets with is people he needs to groom. A lot of people are just useless idiots, and fucking, it's very apparent that B liberal is being used as a detractor. He's not important. He's not worth like actively making amped criticism about. I mean, we're taking the piss at this point. The guy is like he's a joke, and so it's like we're in a position where he's trying to get more attention than he's even fucking worth.
Let's be honest. It's not even worth
And it's
criticizing.
but what I wanted to get to is it's to take heat off Caleb. Caleb
Yep.
wants people to not talk about Caleb.
It's like that's why when I talked about B liberal the other day, I talked about everyone else too. Because let's be honest, everything I criticize B level for, I can criticize Default, Flame of Liberation, the whatever Venezuelan Patriot,
That's the one, yeah.
fucking Haas, all these people are the same in terms of their views. So there is nothing you could criticize a B level that's fucking unique because he's a fucking insect compared to these people. The only reason I could probably criticize B liberal better than anyone here, no offense, because I worked with him for 2 years.
I mean, it's sort of one of the things that, like, and don't take no stress on it. I'm not criticizing what you did the other day. It's one of them situations, and here's the thing: you went through a lot of stress with the trauma that was thrown onto your head. He's basically dragged you through the Ebro bushes and back because there was the perfect moment for him to strike on such an issue. As a horrible person always does, they look for the best moments to put people down. It's how people try and keep people in abusive relations. He's behaving like an Onision character, except he doesn't want to fuck you. At least I don't think he wants to fuck you. Um, but nonetheless, he dragged you down like that. But then also like trying to berate you, mess with your head, and then we got uh, fucking people like Trav playing nice guy for people like this all the fucking time, and I mean like not only with what he thinks he can go about doing and saying to people and bringing people as if they're friendly people when they've said trauma when he knows the trauma he's done to you, but there's also the fact that he thinks he can just yeah there's going on someone's stream to debate them because you don't like them. Like think about Richard Spencer and Jason's debate. Jason didn't go there because he had any respect for Richard Spencer. He went there because he wanted to speak to Richard Spencer as the piece of shit Richard Spencer is. And you know what? Jason even failed in that debate and criticized himself in that debate, and we've all criticized him in that debate. But Trav not only failed in this debate because he was rather than turning around and going, no, I'm busy, I'm lifting weights, he decided to be in two places at once. But I'm really that bothered about that criticism. I agree that that's not really the main criticism needs to be made. What main criticism needs to be made is when he's making statements towards abusers and people who treat people like dickheads of, I know you're honest in your beliefs and that you're truthful to your points. What the fuck? What the fuck? I'm sorry, since when was anyone who's a Dengist honest in Marxism? And secondly, since when was anyone who were doxing fucking Jewish Sephardi comrades who are on the street in struggle were fucking literally using the death of the closest family member in any family? There's no one who has a closer relationship to their child than their fucking mother, and holding that over someone's head is the most disgraceful and disgusting thing anyone can ever fucking do. Disgraceful. And so he did this to people who Travis supposed to have this some form of kinship and friendship towards, or at least through proxy of Jason, which has no care for the people Jason has heart for. If he doesn't care for these people, and we'll turn around and say that he's got fucking friendly vows towards them. They're honest and truthful people he can talk with. Fucking pull your head out your ass for a minute and see whether the sun is shining or whether the sky is dark, because you don't know whether it's day or night, mate.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring up things that you've had to deal with, man.
Don't take it personally, because what happened with my mother is public knowledge at this point.
Yeah, I know, but you shouldn't have to keep reliving this stuff because this guy's a unhuman fucking, a dehumanizing piece of shit.
I don't even know if I'm the first person he did this to. That's the thing that I am convinced I'm not the first.
Yeah,
I refuse to believe I was the first.
Abusing people is a cycle for these people. They'll find other people to treat like shit all the time.
Like, who's to say this guy didn't do it to other people? It's like, I just find this I'm very suspicious about this because, and one thing, I'm just going to bring this up. One thing I found very suspicious is every person I've ever had a falling out with, it was B Liberal's fault. Kyle Phantom, guess what happened? What B Liberal manipulated him when he was grieving when his grandmother died. Iron Inquisitor, he manipulated him after his grandfather died. Like I said, this isn't the first fucking time he's done this.
It's a pattern of abuse to squash people down, to crush them. This is the mentality of people who think they are superior to people, that they are great manipulators. But I can't remember who it was who said this to me, but it's something I need to consider. Manipulation outright can be easy because you can do what he did, wait for the worst of things to come to people. But a great manipulator doesn't lose the people he's trying to manipulate. He's trying to manipulate away from Jason and literally chased you straight into him. Like, the guy is The guy is someone who is like he's an educated moron. Thinks he knows a lot because he's read a few fucking things or listened to a few videos, but in all actuality, he couldn't find his arsehole from his fucking mouth because he seems to keep speaking shit all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's always been like this. Everyone that has issues with be liberal, everything you've heard from him and seen is nothing new. It's just I've been blind to it until like that falling out we had. Like he's always been a grifter. He's always been a larper. Like that's why it's not really worth addressing be liberal. Like Caleb Maupin is the one that needs to be addressed because he's the one that really matters at the end of the day. All these other people are just small fry. Even Haas is a small fry compared to Caleb Maupin.
yeah. And we saw he even mentioned in the stream like, yeah, these fucking people, these terminally online people, nice projection there, who do muffin watch and other such things. It's like they're scared of what's being revealed. They're scared of it, like the fact that they have to go out of their way to delete streams of certain quote unquote Marxist Leninists who were uh, um, talking with a certain fascist named Cultured Thug. Um, these fucking these Patsoc fuckers are just they don't want this shit getting out. That's why they talk behind closed doors with their Patreon streams once a month at the end of the month. It's fucking
Yeah,
ridiculous.
where do
But
you have to hide? If you're like, oh, I do these blah 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 because of reasons. It's like you're supposed to be for the workers, right? What the fuck do you have to hide?
and speaking of workers, I'm gonna have to log off soon because I gotta get at least 3 hours of sleep before I go into work because it's
Well,
gonna
I
be one
don't
of these
want to.
nights.
I don't want to disrupt your sleep anymore. So, do you have any final words? I'll let you off. You can get off now because you need
Yeah.
to sleep.
My final words. Fuck Caleb Maupin. Fuck Infercell and fuck Be Liberal. Um,
Ultraviolet
we need
infocell.
Infercell. We need we need to support the workers anywhere around the world, be it in New York with this Amazon thing, be it in Ukraine, Russia, Palestine, wherever it is. That's your first and foremost goal. And I will catch you all on the flip side. Peace out,
Later.
everybody.
Yeah. Well, I find it funny that B Liberal says that regarding I'm barely Duke Wop and Watch. In fact, I mostly do my own streams on various topics, which I find ironic. Because
Yeah,
everything he talks about is issues that I don't even watch his streams. Like I look at like titles like nobody I don't nobody cares, nobody cares, nobody cares. It's like nobody really cares about what Be Liberal has to say. Like barely anyone cares. And I'm not gonna one that act like I get as many views as I do because I'm not fucking like Be Liberal that acts like a self-important narcissist. I know my channel doesn't get that many views, and I know this stream isn't going to get as many views as I would like. But you know what? I know what I actually am. I know what my outreach is. I know the YouTube algorithm is against me, and I know with StreamYard it's going to take God knows how many hours for this stream to be processed. So I know all this in consideration that it's going to be a lot more difficult for me to reach out to people. But you know what? The longevity of majority of my streams are higher than B Liberals are because he has to publish more content in order to actually game the algorithm. I don't do that. If I
probably.
do, like edit some segments of my streams. I do stuff that I think is essential, which I haven't found any essential things in a while that could be its own video.
I mean, my goodness. And then there's the people he involves himself in, like Larry the Stinko. Oh, he was one of the people who were on a lot of the other Carl's streams, also including a stream with Cultured Thug, where Cultured Thug is getting this ML, supposed ML, CPUSA, so what do you expect? Who's like, oh, it's being controlled by the blue airs. There's one red flag. Then he was like, and that's the ML that said that. And then, like, what's it? Cultured Thug used the T slur, and the ML didn't push back. Um, and the so then also Cultured Thug called China not Marxist, not capitalist. Now you would think, sorry, not Marxist and not socialist, and you would think that the um the Marxist Leninists would push back and defend it. The supposed one, the one who thinks China is still, you know, their guy, their country, what they want to do, because he's one of them types. He's the Dengoids. And the guy turned around and was like, you know what? No, that's actually quite interesting. I was reading an article from China that was like from two Chinese economists that was saying China is corporatist. And then he didn't even say what he thought about the article. He just moved the conversation on and let Culture Thug move on to the next thing. He said something that conferred to his point and then didn't break the ambiguity. So it's ambiguous, which would to me imply that he agrees with the assessment. And obviously, Culture Thug, when he heard the guy turn around and say, "You know what? I heard someone saying it's corporatist." He's like, "Yeah," and whipped up the moment. And I won't keep going on about him because I just keep repeating them for ages. But it was that process. Culture Thug would say something reactionary, and the ML would confer on it, and then Culture Thug would expand on that conferation, and there was basically little to no pushback. It's interesting that it was called talking with communists because it wasn't a debate; it was a conversation. And I mean, it prefaced with Culture Thug reaching out and being like, I don't even know why we disagree. It's like get along quite well. After we did a stream only covering a few minutes of that because we were talking like ages and not getting it going. The other pussyhole, the other Carl, sorry, I mistaked his name because he decided to be a coward. The other fucking Carl went and scrubbed his channel of every video he had, including that one. He was already deleted a load of other videos, but he went and deleted that video, and I'm trying to fucking cover it for a fucking video to break down the issues of fascism regarding the fucking Moppinites. It makes me feel like he's fucking covering for titty liberals' ass because I mean Moppin fucking already got Moppin watched and that being a pain in the ass because every time I'm seeing things that are resource and covering them, I still haven't done a full in-depth video on the Bonapartism fucking tweet. That's gonna be
I would
fun.
advise you just download the videos.
I know I should have done that in the first place, but it don't matter now. What's it? Um, we're taking a different path. I don't need the videos that they were involved in now. They're already gone. I can just literally look to Culture Thug's positions and already know the fact that those videos were there, and I have fucking 20 minutes of it to show that it was there. Like I still have a portion of the video. It is within a very long stream, so a bit hard to get the snippets out, but it exists enough that a video is truthfully something I can point out that exists and was scrubbed and shows their cowardice.
Well, what did they have to hide? If they're not fascists, why would they like get rid of the the evidence that they openly are?
Mate, absolute thing that's spinning my head. It's
I
the pure
personally
cowardice.
I personally believe this sounds like a conspiracy. These people exist strictly to discredit communists.
Fucking Caleb Maupin put the word fascist in speech marks on the video where they were Culture Fug. I don't know whether he's changed it since I talked about it on my stream because you know what these guys are like when it comes to optics.
Well,
Uh,
it's the fact that they're afraid of you, like a small YouTuber that barely has 100 subscribers, that barely gets any views, is like, what the fuck are they afraid of?
yeah, absolutely. It's fucking weird.
Like the
The,
YouTube algorithm works in their favor. What the fuck are they afraid of? Either they're
yeah,
stupid and that don't realize that, oh, or there's other things they don't want, reasons they don't want, these stuff being exposed. Because what if the wrong person finds out? Maybe that's the reason. Maybe something that we don't know.
And it's like
Then again, I sound like a conspiracy theorist.
I'll send you so I'll send you this on Skype. Here's a screenshot of the title for the video of Caleb Moppin did talk debating Cultured Thug.
I watched that debate. It was embarrassing.
The word fascist is in speech marks, like in like like quote unquote fascist. That implies to me that Caleb is only implying that Culture Thug calls himself a fascist, but Caleb doesn't see him as one, or something of that other. Because, like, that's questioning it. When you put some just in speech marks like that, purely of itself, it's questioning it. Because here's the thing: it doesn't matter that Culture Thug calls himself a fascist. I call myself a communist, but if a fascist doesn't disagree with me that I'm a communist, he doesn't have to put my label in speech marks. Just like if I don't disagree, a fascist who calls himself a fascist is a fascist. I don't have to put his name in quotation marks because I know he's a fascist. So I'm using the same label so I can quote myself, which I don't have to put in quotes because I'm the one speaking when I reverberate a title. So that to me puts things into question. That's allowing murky waters. Why is he murking the waters on this geezer? And he nods along for a lot of the stuff he's saying in the video. He does criticize him with a lot of stuff, but a lot of it is like sometimes even weirdly skewed off topic where he's talking about truths that are really important and are big issues of fascism, but it's like rather than a entire counters to his points all the time, and sometimes he does do counters, but there's a lot of points where he detracts. He's moving on to a criticism of fascism that might not be entirely related to the previous point made, rather than breaking down the previous point made. It's not.
I
He's not being very attentive.
I feel like, I know this stream is basically gone off the Amazon thing, but I feel like the Patsoc, the reason why I've been talking about it for like a good chunk of the stream, because I think it's very important that we discuss this, because we're in a very dangerous time right now in human history, where arising everywhere, and the most dangerous kinds of fascists that we're dealing with right now, they're not fucking Nazis. They're fucking people that call themselves communists that are pushing fascism. The people
Yeah,
that actually understand communism, because these people actually read Marx, they've read Lenin, they read Stalin, they read Mao, they read Gramsci. You get the deal. They read all these writers, so they know how to talk communism without sounding overtly like a fascist. They can
I
argue
mean,
anti-communist talking points without appearing to be anti-communist.
yeah, and Morphin's a good example. Morphin's read a lot. He's read a lot and he's wrote a lot. And these people know how to walk the walk. They know how to talk the talk. And I mean, you know, even people who don't call themselves Marxists accept all of this. So it's interesting with Mosley because Mosley's somewhere people be like, yeah, but he was just a Labour socialist. What does that matter? Okay, yes, the Parliamentary Labour Party has never been Marxist and never really was very Marxist. There were a couple of delinquents who were Trotskyists in it. It's complicated. But the Parliamentary Labour Party was something that was started not out of respect for the grassroots Labour Party because it's called the Grassroots Labour Party now because obviously there's the two groups. But originally, it was just called the Labour Party. And you'll hear Lenin and Stalin talk good of the Labour Party. They're not talking of the Parliamentary Labour Party. They're talking of the Grassroots Labour Party. And that was filled with a lot of people of different socialist colours, a lot of them Marxists. And so the literature was there, along with loads of different people's literature that weren't even Marxists, because I don't know if Marxists know this, but other socialist people have also written literature. It exists. Now, we disagree with a lot of it, but you should understand that to disagree with someone, you've got to understand it. Now, fascists, they know this. They know to disagree with someone, you got to understand it. Joseph Goebbels knew a lot about communism, but Oswald Mosley, someone in the Parliamentary Labour Party, a party that I still think at the time of Mosley's membership, it may have changed at this point, but I do believe still at the time of Mosley's membership, they were preaching the whole in the manifesto that their reason for existing is to counter um, the concept of revolutionary socialism and all that stuff. Like it was their sly way of saying we're against Marxism, Leninism, um, and Marxism on a whole, really. Uh, uh, but they try to do the whole Trotskyist thing of cooing in orthodox Marxists, because I mean we're talking back in a time where they still actually were someone that could exist without it being a weird thing. They were like the MLs are today, and so they were able to be cooed into being electoralists, even though orthodox Marxism it's hilarious to think that you'd be an orthodox Marxist and an electoralist, because Marx was an electoralist. I mean, he did preach some stuff that you could say were of that quarter at times, but he wasn't for getting wins for electoralism. He was for revolution. So the Labour Party it rose up on this position. Oswald Mosley, someone like that, he's got to read the books if he really wants to understand what he's fighting against. If he's smart, he's going to pick up them books. And what I find interesting, because I can't confirm to you whether he's read this, that, or the other of Marxism, but I can tell you that his conclusions on imperialism and how it should be organized for the British Empire were very, very similar to the conclusions that China come with for organizing its empire. You know, build up build up infrastructure, build up workplaces, educate a workforce there. And Mosley, because obviously he's trying to appeal to Britain, and you mean fucking where do you think America's racism came from? You mix the British, the Spanish, and the French somewhere, and you're gonna get something like that. And over in Britain, the way they did it, the way he advertised it, was that they wouldn't, all these immigrants wouldn't be coming over here. You know, that old fucking bullshit. Um, so he advertised his platform of imperialism like that, but the reason it's for that is to try and basically neoliberalism has tried to just dissociate itself from this, but fascism, even during the time of the Cold War, and I mean, it's had to ramp itself up on this position now. Blairism talks about this a lot, is needing to stabilize imperialism. They want to make an imperialism that's a little more fucking stable. They don't like the fact that neoliberalism is very just focused on internal stability and don't get me wrong, we're still talking imperialism here. They don't want to fucking stabilize everything and make decency. Don't fucking give them credit that they don't need fucking credit. All they want to do is stop rebellion without having to constantly fucking extenuate a military force that's becoming weaker and weaker and harder for them to sustain when they keep aristocratizing their own country and having to bourgeoisificate even the workers of their own country, because they can't they can't just throw them down the drain, because they notice that if they do that, these people radicalize, they organize, then they become a problem for the system, and they're back to the same rut they were in the 1800s and the early 1900s, and that's scary shit for them. They don't like the chance of using their empire. It makes them poo themselves. Shitars.
Yeah, even though I don't really have much left to say, because I think we made both of our points regarding the Amazon strike and the Patsocs. But I already made my final points on the union. So regarding the Patsocs, you're never going to be able to stop Mop and Watch. The Mop and
Yeah,
Watch will continue whether you like it or not.
an unorganized force is doomed to die. We've seen this with how radical black people are in America. They're one of the most radical, if not the most radical forces around. They always rise up, they always strike. But because there's parties of people going out to organize the people, I prefer organization as a term and as a functional structure. But use the word party; it's easy. Everyone knows it. Organizations going out and working with the people or struggle ain't gonna happen. So with this strike, what everyone needs to take home with this is my final closing statement, is that it's blessed that they managed to do this, but they are in a point where they're not only not organized by proper organizations into a point where they could cohesify this into a wider struggle, more national, more international. Think about Canada, think about the UK, think about France, places where Amazon has massive participation. So this organization has stopped this from being as widespread as it can be, but it's also made this possible to A, not last as long, and B, have the possible of being bourgeoisificated in of itself. As far as I've been told, the union isn't owned by Amazon, so at least they didn't have that problem happen, because we have a problem where corporations will do like Nazi governments do, where they just own the union and control the union. So as far as I've heard, that's not the case. God bless to that. And that came from their arduous struggle. That they weren't even organized by communist sin, as far as I'm aware. This is just organic struggle. They're organized in their own outlet. I'm not disfranchising them on that, but none of us are going out there to push this to a more revolutionary position, and that's going to allow this to simmer out if we're not careful.
Yeah, what we need to do is organize among the masses because
Are you
any
about to say out of the movement and into the masses?
yes, because we need to. Any I know that's a radical concept you pet socks like to throw out there, but I'll say it. Any communist who lives in New York who is capable of organizing, what the fuck are you doing? This is your chance to organize with the people and keep this movement as an organic one, because if they can't stop the union, they will try to, and they'll try to, like, do what Stone said, that they'll try to
Control it, yeah.
bourgeoisify it, or so yeah, don't let we can't let that happen. So I will
Absolutely.
support this. I will celebrate this small victory, but we can't let our guard down, because this fight is far from over. Amazon is not going to give up on this.
Uh,
Don't be surprised if you see this guy, this man who organized the proletariat, get demonized even more by the media.
yeah, bastardized and ostracized across. And what's it? We got it. This is not a 1905 moment for America either. Don't people take it too far in the other direction? But to understand, so no, there's a thing though that people do need to read. Lenin's lecture on 1905. Now, reading the lecture, you'll know this isn't 1905, but this is still something that Lenin speaks to that's very important in that pamphlet. And he basically talks about organic struggle and uprising. And that's how most struggles start. And that's how next that all revolutions start. They're organic. That people lose their shit because their class interests flare up and their consciousness develops off of that, and they build a cohesive sense of unity. That's why capitalism has exported contradictions all the time for imperialism. It's a way of breaking up class consciousness of the proletariat. You know, we got to understand that in these times of organic upheaval, it's the duty of the communists to go there and do what he can to organize amongst these people and understand what's going on, what the people are cheering for, what their needs are, and obviously, from our lens, analyze it, criticize where we need to criticize, support where we need to support, and push ourselves through this and support the people we're supposed to be supporting, not just they're not even doing virtue signaling. They're even worse than that. They're fucking not even speaking about them, and the few of them that do speak to them or about them are disenfranchising them because of fucking Juan Guaido. I haven't even, it's been quite a few years since I've watched Star Wars Episode 4, but I don't think Greedo really matters to this. But anyway, Juan Guaido, he fucking. Uh, no one's give a fuck about Greedo since 2018, and lumpen and proletarian people alike couldn't give a flying fuck about Greedo. Um, you
Majority
know,
of them never heard of him.
Maduro should have shot first. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
having
he
too much
should
fun
have.
with the Greedo jokes.
But still, like, they just prove, like, that's just why I consider the Pet Sox dangerous. They're wreckers, and this kind of shit is wrecking shit. Because think about it, when people on the internet, you everyday person, when they see communists like that, like the Pet Sox, say anti-working class sentiment, guess what people are going to think? Oh, the communists don't give a fuck about the working class. Well, I don't want to be a communist if this is what this entails.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's sort of like they're expanding the issue we have with China being a fascist state, and no one wanting to stand up about it because the whole world is being sort of, you know, how everyone, how ever since World War Two, well, ever since the McCarthy period specifically, but it's essentially ever since 1948. Um, Soviet Union has constantly tried to be equated to by the West to Nazi Germany. China basically allows them to turn around and exclaim this point. Not entirely. China isn't Nazi, but they are a fascist state, and they do wave a red flag with fucking gold stars on it. So at the end of the day, if we're not criticizing this shit and bashing it for what it is, and laying down our, what we have a problem with it, and turning around and standing against the fact that it's causing imperialism around the world, etc. Not to go in too much detail about it, we allow this idea that that this is communism that some people are picking up, even people in China who don't like the way that they're being mistreated, the massive amount of people who are colonized by Han chauvinism. And that's just one of the nice English translations of it. It's Han colonialism. It's fucking part of the settler colonialism and dominative structure of China. China has a long history of different groups powering over the region, and the region not even being a unified region and being split between different regions. It's complicated, and I couldn't tell you all of it because I'm not a scholar on China. I know a few bits and pieces here and there. But China has a very rich history when it comes to um, colonialism of the sort of the old type I'm speaking of here. Um, like we're talking like back to the Roman periods, sort of old type. But uh, uh, you know, Caleb
Well,
Maupin is allowing this sort of spread in the first world now because he's now allowing the advertisement of communism to Americans as fascism, as Bonapartism, because he's literally preaching that he's going to continue. Remember the post he did was it from his Facebook or sorry, from his own Twitter or from the CPI Twitter? I can't remember. I think it was the CPI Twitter, but either way, it was like it was preaching that they were going to do what Roosevelt didn't finish or something like that. And now he's also admitted that Roosevelt's a Bonapartist, and he said that America needs a Kaiser and it wouldn't be him. He's admitted to literally things Mussolini supported as a member of the fascist party, as the founder of the fascist party. He literally preached the same shit Mussolini preached, the fucking the Kaiserism. Um, call it Bonapartism if you really want to flamboyantize it and use the fucking French. I don't give a fuck whose ass he wants to stick his head up. Kaiserism all the way for him. He wants to literally do Mussolini style fascism. Well, no wonder he likes FDR. I mean, biggest criticism was communists and real communists, Caleb, not the CPUSA that decided to throw the natives under the bus and get them siding with fucking Roosevelt for most of the rights they were given were more suitable for landowning natives and not um lower class natives, and right to work is not a fucking not a fucking benefit to people in the system. It's all it did is got people thrown into horrible work. I mean, when slaves got taken off plantation and were given right to work, they weren't even paid enough to survive. So the people that they worked for, they were turned around and told, okay, well, we'll let you put yourself on tab so you can get yourself into debt for us, and so you can never leave this job, and you'll work this job forever because we're not going to increase your pay. We'll let you get food, but you'll have to put yourself in debt to put food on your table. And that's how the workers start. So when you hear things like 16 ton, what do you get? Another day older and you're deeper in debt. That song is talking about something that happened. It happened to both black and white people, but it happened to black people more. White people were certainly paid more than black people. And I'll tell you now, a lot of black people still weren't even paid at all because they used to fumble about with their wages. They used to make them wait as long as possible, make them fucking have to lose their shit to get their wages. And by lose their shit, they had to do so in the politest of manner and not speak too loudly. Otherwise, they'd lose their job and not get paid at all and still be in debt. And they'd have to deal with debt collectors then to get money. And you think debt collectors are aggressive now? Think about how aggressive they were in the 1800s. People really, really do not know how evil this fucking system is because of how imperialism has whitewashed this fucking world and wiped their ass with a sanitary towel. And
well,
that's how this Patsocs are functioning. They're a bunch of disgusting little shits. They'll dehumanize workers when they stand up, but even more so, they treat the fucking lumpen proletariat 9 times out of 10 like they don't exist. Like I was saying, so he's preaching Roosevelt. He's preaching Roosevelt and he wants to continue Roosevelt. He's a Bonapartist. He's admitting he's a fascist. He's going to throw the lower class people under the bus to basically treat the labor aristocracy like they're working class. And that's why you have crazy fanatics like that fucking woman and that bloke that were carrying the US and the American flags that were from Best Buy by the looks of things. The flags, they weren't even correct, neither of them. And crazies like that. I think that's the thing to end on. Like the absolute they're full of loonies who think that the labor aristocracy is equatable to the fucking proletariat, and it makes me fucking sick.
I agree. And that is why Mop and Watch will not be stopped. If it isn't Stone doing it, someone else will do it.
Actually,
There,
as well, that's the thing to say that will really add to the thing that you're applying here with your statement. So the reason that Mop and Watch manages to have any semblance of stability with the way it runs, I mean, continuously, it's not the most stable of shows at times. Sometimes it can be 10 hours long, is because I have comrades, Lumpen and Aristocrat, who do fucking research for me. They look into these things. They tell me this person is someone who's alarming and you should look into. This is something you need to look into here. This has been said here because I can't look into all of these things all the time. Mop and Watch won't be stopped because already multiple people do it. Ain't just me behind it. I have multiple people who help ensure that I have information to look into that is fucking sus. And that's why a lot of the time I will come into stuff that I may have watched only half of because I've been already told by comrades that it's shit and it's full of stuff and there's loads of crap towards the end. And I don't care if it's even stuff that I might not as hardly criticize because I'm honestly going to break it down and you're going to see the truth there. I'm going to speak to it. I ain't cutting it up into snippets. Morpin Watch is not only not going to be stopped, but Morpin Watch is verbatim. It's all of it outright in your face and
well,
suck on that.
when I said it won't be stopped, I'm saying that if you don't do it, someone else will as well. Like
Oh yeah,
this,
but I'm also sort of really vamping the idea that there's not just one person behind this already, so it's already multiple people. So I'm getting on that it will envelop to further people, but also there's there's strength behind it because I got brothers and sisters who ensure that.
because Caleb Maupin is dangerous because what he represents it endangers communists everywhere because he is going out of his way to wreck communist movements and also to rewrite and redefine what is working class. Because any working class movement that has been arising in America since 26 not 2016, 2020, he's not talking about. If he does, he dismisses them.
But it's like I was speaking with that earlier, and I spoke with someone else about this as well. That it was Lump and Celt the other day as well. So the Moppin the Moppin split showed Moppin take a lot of skin off and show who he is. He started to flare up and really go on the Duganite fucking spree. 2018 was where he sort of lobbed off and where I started to lose faith in the guy and was concerned of the accusations that were being made of him. But the position I was had to make back in 2018 was that I didn't know enough of the situation, so I'm not saying anything. And it was my idiocy to not look into it because fuck me, when I found out later on, ooh boy, I was not happy. Caleb Maupin has sort of been playing everyone for a while, and since about 2018, it's been apparent the Dugan debate is telling like really telling and it got missed by people because Caleb plays such a nice guy. Like he plays a nice guy. Other than the fact that in his streams he's a condescending prick, but he does play a nice guy. He seems like a type of person who, when you're chatting with him on the norm, he probably is a sound person to speak with. Not gonna say wrong that way, but he plays the nice guy, tricks everyone, and people fall for that, and then they try and to look past his condescension because it's like he's an aristocrat. He's gonna speak to people like a dickhead. But he raw said on one of his streams, Skengaros is here, and he's probably cringing because I'm poorly explaining this because I'm not the best when it comes to saying things very quickly and briefly. But Caleb once said directly on his stream that like he condescends and speaks to people like a dickhead because people are idiots essentially. Like
Well,
he basically
that's how him and the Pet Sox think of people.
yeah, he did a
Like
preach to idiocy.
I'm not going to discuss this in detail, but I was basically told that if I wanted to keep my SSI from going down in the future, that there may be some months out of the year I may have to not work like more than like a few times in the month. It's like none of these
Yeah,
fuckers understand what real struggle is, and that's why I will defend the lumpen proletariat, because lumpen workers are some of the most exploited workers out there. Like if
yeah.
you like, and none of these people have any experience, but that's
So
a different video for a different day.
there is one thing to say though that you're saying there. So like disabled workers are used by the system, but because so is the thing that's really getting at. Everyone thinks it's just because of the money problems. That is the biggest stress over the head. But actually one of the most mind breaking and heartbreaking things that really hits you the hardest and the longest is not being able to function and work properly. We're all people who like to function and operate and do a job and be engaging and actually do something that's beneficial for society. That's why people normally want jobs that are bigger than working at Sainsbury's. But not being able to work very often, which is already the problem disabled people already have, is that they can't work very often if they do work. Um, you know, they then are already being disenfranchised and struggling, and it's hitting their mental health hard. But also, the way that they get worked hits them hard the other way as well. So most people especially in America, who get given mental health, disabled workers in general. I don't know why I said mental health. Disabled workers, don't matter whether it's physical disability, mental disability, anything, learning disability, neurological disability, they will stick you on the fucking rush hour shift essentially. They'll stick you on the high noon of a Saturday, or they'll stick you on a fucking 3 p.m. on a fucking Thursday or a Friday. They'll find a day where they're going to make the most profit out of you because they get paid enough subsidiaries that you're somewhat paid off anyway. So if they work you on a really, really arduous day, they can make a fucking gun out of you. And that's what's the really fucking horrible thing. You're in a rock and a hard place from like 5 different angles. You're boxed in, and it feels like you're going to suffocate. If you stop working at all, you're going to fucking feel like you're going to blow your brains out because you've got nothing to do with your life and everything's folding past you. And everyone who's trying to help you in your life is pressurizing you because they're treating you like you're not trying hard enough because you're not doing something like that. And then it makes you belittle yourself and not think of yourself as enough. But then when you're in that position, everything feels like it's making you just want to off yourself anyway, and not try enough for yourself, and not be worth yourself because you're treated as like you're not a worthwhile enough individual that's allowed to have a decent semblance of work that doesn't work them to death in the shortest period of time in some miraculous manner because it doesn't take any respect for the conditions that they suffer with. This is disgusting, and people
Well,
should take more respect for that.
I don't even talk about this because I don't want pity. It's just, like I said, I'll get into
This isn't
that in
about pity,
detail more.
brother. This is about solidarity because this goes farther than you. They do this to so many fucking disabled workers. This goes further than just you. But they do this to you. They do this to every disabled worker.
I,
These
I
Patsocs don't even fucking give a shit about the disabled. They see us as fucking as useless eaters. Like we said
well,
earlier, the true
to
Malthusians,
quote
but the
to,
eugenicists too.
to quote default, lumpen are all scum.
Oh, thank you, default. Kisses.
Thank you, default, for basically saying that the most vulnerable people of the lumpen, you know, the the disabled, that we're all scum. Thank you for telling the world how you truly feel. Thank you for exposing to the world that you're a fucking Nazi.
Oh, also, it's Autism Awareness Month, so be aware of us. We're everywhere. We're in your house. We're behind you. I saw that
Yes,
meme
we're
somewhere today. It made
everywhere.
me laugh.
Anyway, I don't really. I've run out of things to say.
No, I think we ended on a beautiful point, pointing that out about disabled workers because the
I'll
nice end
My
point. I
final
think that was.
words for the stream. Um, Support the Amazon workers. Fuck the pet socks, and peace out.
Absolutely, red salute, comrades.